My question, and apologies if it comes off a little bit heavy. I was on a stream earlier today, and someone was kind of like, "Hey, you speak about all the positives, but what are some potential flaws that you see, and like that?" And I had to kind of rack my brain. And the only thing I would kind of think of, and Trevor was kind of speaking about it too, is with you know tons and tons of licensors on the backlog, and so many different things on your guys' plate, and design houses. How many things are just kind of on the backlog?
Mm-hmm.
As you guys continue to scale and grow, it's just going to get even more so, right? So I guess my question is, why do you guys choose to be or run this lean? I know Agile is important, but are you guys looking to double headcount, add more developers to continue to scale? Or I guess what's the reasoning for running so
Yeah.
lean?
Okay. Great question. So what happened was last year, we ran out of funding. Well, we didn't run out completely. We basically, um, if we didn't mention this before, we would around myself and Dan before we came back to New Zealand. We were at San Francisco. You know, days before it got locked down, we were there to see venture capitalists, and we didn't see any of them at the end. I think maybe one or two. And then we had to fly back because everything was just closing down the borders. So during the 220, the entire year, we basically were on shoestring budget. In fact, we could only carry X amount of work, and we were already over resource, tight resource with what we had and funding and talents and everything. Now, about 2000 end of 220, we had to make a decision to either do a new race at a very very cheap valuation, or we go live. One of our advisors basically told us, "Hey, why don't you go live and just see how you guys do?" And just keep in mind, we've been negotiating licenses going back to 2018-19 when we say, really go in the project. And a lot of these licensors didn't kind of understand what it is. I mean, you almost like throwing a net out there and you try to catch some fish coming back. And we didn't yield very well, right? Because no one understand what NFT was. And now moving to 2021, when we launched in January, we had a very small test use group, and they were predominantly the original Omi holders who contributed to our project when we did a small IEO run. Now we invited them in, and I need to be very honest. When we opened the floodgate, the download, it went from almost zero to where we are around the 900,000 user mark. During this whole process, and remember, we don't actually get paid by Apple until the following month. If you know how business work is, they collect your money at the end of the month, they tally up, and they pay you the following month on the 15th. So we were always constant about 60 days behind. And we had to ensure that our employees and external contractors and service provider to keep our lights on. So those were going out. And we could not, we were not as profitable as people think that, selling these NFT is super profitable. They not, there's a lot of costs behind it to keep the AW server on, to keep and having the retention of customer. And we had about, I think, 3 months scaling issue. Our app was originally designed to be have about 60,000 users by the end of this year. I think about 65,000. Now, that 800,000 download after really brought to our attention that we need to scale, like you say, on the resource. It's only been the last 90 days we have brought on more talent. And I rest assure you the team have tripled from where we were last year and where we were beginning of this year. And we will be going through another scaling coming up. But what I wanted to ensure our user mainly is that we want to bring the best of the talent in that field that we can. And we try to run this business as agile as possible. And I do also need to let everyone know is that the licensor only want to deal with either myself or Daniel. We are the key people, and they don't really want to speak to a second tier. They want to know how we're going to execute, how we're going to deliver, and when we're going to deliver. And that's basically all these multinational. They want to ensure that they become relevant in the industry and they become relevant in the VeVe app and how that experience is going to translate. Um, we do have a huge external agencies, multiple of them are working with Trevor, pumping out designs and work. And also do keep in mind, this NFT really blown off around, I think, April, May. And a lot of our contract licensor who didn't onboard last year suddenly all came on board all at once. So we suddenly have a whole backlog. I mean, just like any business, and especially when I talk to Dan and my vision with my team, is that I believe how we're going to be running this business is quite structured. We go from 1, 7, 17, 70, 300 rule is I always tell Dan is that, when we start as a startup, we have one person and then we're going to grow from the 7th employee, the 7th hire, then the 17, the 70. And from that 17 employee, you're going to jump to 300. How are we going to be shaping each category when we move up? When do we bring in our HR manager? When do we stop outsourcing work? When do we build our own studio to retain all those work in-house? But right now, we have found the easiest and the fastest way is to outsource a lot of these. So in terms when you talk about are we running lean in the executive level? Yes, we are. But and basically in the bottleneck where outsourcing, doing designs, coming up with innovative ideas on graphic, characters, strategy, we do have a ton of creative out there doing it. But yeah, and I'm just being very candid and transparent where we were last year and where we were expecting this year. It's a huge different gap. I think I had to go back to my roadmap 2, 3 times, and I had to relook at my figures 3, 4 times. And every time I put in a new figure where I want to pinpoint, we just super pass that and within weeks.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for the transparency and being so candid. That's really cool story. Basically, like bootstraps to red bottom. So, thanks so
Yeah,
much.
Will VeVe will be a place like for artists to make things for community? Maybe I don't know, like stages or have you thought about that idea? Or maybe I'm just like thinking
yeah.
too much.
No, thanks for being part of us. And listen, my dream for Fifi First is going to be much grainier than what we can build today. I need to be very honest because I dream really big. Both myself and Dan dream really big. But how we're going to be rolling out is we're going to be doing them in stages. Where the number one focus will be your showroom, where what we're going to be calling that as your home, and how you interact with one another, and then we'll be growing that space to a bit bigger. I think I mentioned we wish to have exhibitions where community can come together, and one day the AMA will be probably held also in the metaverse, where the Fifi First will have an auditorium where people can come participate, and there could be screens up there more than just what is voice. And slowly, just going back to your point, is that will we be allowing all these other external talent to be publishing things? Yeah, I mean, it is our dream to do all that, but we just need to make sure that we are rolling them out at the right time and in the good manner, and just ensuring that everything's going to work. And I don't want to promise the whole world because I know Dan's going to be calling me after this AMA and go, what did you promise them? So just to go back, stage one, we're just going to make sure that home, your showroom is going to be represented well in there. And then idea is to run small community events and grow from there.